Richician!
Hey YouTube, Richician is here, and I'm back with another top 15 video. This time I'm going to be counting down my top 15 arch nemesis Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. So yeah, we're basically going back to hated monsters, and everything on this list has been on other lists I've done, so there's not much I can say that I haven't said already. It's just more the fact that all of these monsters have just annoyed me the most over the last 15 years. The ones that have been an absolute thorn in my side and just made my dueling life a misery. Um, Now, yes, there are ways to counter them. Um, I'm sure someone's probably going to say, oh, just deal with this card using this card and that card. But look, drawing the out doesn't work every single time. Like, doesn't matter if these cards have counters. I mean, just because you have counters doesn't mean you're always going to see them, no matter how many you have. So yeah, just wanted to make that clear. And also, again, I don't mean any offence to anyone who plays these cards. I'm just simply once again explaining like why I hate them and why I consider all of them an arch nemesis of mine. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. I don't know how. There probably won't be much to explain, which could be just as well, because it could end up being a long video, but we'll see. Anyway, let's kick this off. Number 15, Caius the Shadow Monarch. Now, of all the original 6 monarchs, this one is the most infuriating. Alright, Riser's effect is worse, but Caius is the one that's seen the most play and is just overused and abused, not just in monarchs, but other decks, like Flemvels, Cyber Dragons, Zombies, um, things like that. It's just an annoying, cheap, easy win card that's just been played in like too many decks. Um, just cheaply banishing something just like that, um, and just ending games and just stealing wins, really, with like no effort whatsoever. And not only that, it's also the pre-errata Ring of Destruction of today. Well, I say today, but this card hardly sees play anymore. That's not the point. Um, yeah, there've been a lot of times where not only did Caius banish something just like that and attack the game, but there's also been times where the opponent would have Caius banish itself just to take that last cheap shot at my life points and win the duel that way. It's just so annoying, so fucking cheap and dirty. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it, really. And uh, it's also a reason why Edison tournaments are just unappealing. I mean, I know it's not in every Edison deck, but you know, it's played in Frog Monarchs and you know, Dandy Warrior. Um, it's just another option thrown in to get a cheap, easy win. Um, I mean, that's really all there is to it. Number 40, Grapha, Dragon Lord of Darkworld. One of the sources of my hatred for Darkworld, um, along with Dark Smog and the fusion form, Grapha, the Lord of Darkworld, or whatever the hell his full name is. But Grapha is the one that is just the arch nemesis when it comes to Darkworld. Just popping my cards and just having multiple copies swarm the field and just attack the game just like that. It's an OTK card, basically. The fact that it's an OTK deck is why I hate Dark World, although now it has a lockdown strategy when it comes to Grapha Overlord, because it's practically a negate. But that's a different topic. This is about like the original Grapha. Popping cards, special summoning itself too easily, and just overwhelming pretty much anything I have and going for game. And even if I don't get OTK'd, I still get stuck behind it, and no matter how many times I destroy it, it just ends up always coming back. Like it just won't stay dead. And I've lost countless games against Dark World because of this bastard. I don't lose to Dark World all the time, though. There have been plenty of games where I did win against Dark World, but a lot of the time, Grapha just makes it hard to play against them. What also annoyed me was when people would say, "Oh, just side in Macro and D Fissure; they'll also win against it." Now, while this is true, it still irritated me when people would say that, because my decks are graveyard dependent as well. Macro and D Fissure don't complement anything I play in any way whatsoever. I mean, yeah, you could argue it would hurt Dark World more than it would hurt me, but they're floodgates that are just too much of a double-edged sword. Like, I'd much rather play something that only hurts the opponent and doesn't hurt me, you know? And I do have other ways to deal with Grapha or just Dark World in general, but again, there's no guarantee I'll draw the owls. Um, uh, but yeah, that was pretty much how Dark World matchups went in a nutshell. At least before the fusion came along and just um, made it so I can't play. Number 13, Archlord Christia. Um, yeah, this bastard made my life a misery whether I was playing against agents or Dark World. I mean, it is also an annoying card that Herald plays just to add insult to injury, but I've not encountered that as much as agents and Dark Lords. But yeah, this card is one of the problem cards in both of those decks. Like back when agents were big in the meta, um, this card made that deck impossible to beat, along with uh, Master Hyperion. I mean, look at it. Shuts down special summons, 2800 beat stick, far too easy to summon, and even if I do destroy it, it just goes to the top of the deck, ready to be summoned again later, while Hyperion just blows up my guards. Now, while I don't hate agents, and never did, at the same time, it was just annoying getting stuck behind Christia and Hyperion and not being able to play. I think when it came to full power agents, I only ever won one match against it, and that was it. Um, every other time, I'd just auto lose, even if I sided in leeching the light. Um, it's absolute bullshit. And then there's the fact that it's an extra option for Dark Lords, despite the fact that this doesn't even complement Dark Lords. Because the idea of Dark Lords is to do lots of special summoning and bring out big beat sticks, and Christia just kind of defeats the whole point of that, and so does Vanity's Fiend. But in any case, in Dark Lords, it's just too easy to summon, whether it's through its own way, or if you special summon it off Dark Lord Superbia. So fucking annoying and bullshit, and just made the Dark Lord matchup unenjoyable. I mean, this, along with Vanity's Fiend and Dark Lord's Enchantment and Rebellion, just made me hate that deck and just left a bad taste in my mouth. Um, yeah, when it came to both decks, this was basically an auto win button. Um, regarding the Herald matchup, even if Herald itself isn't auto win, then Christia is. Number 12, Hope Harbinger Titanic Galaxy, one of my most hated Xyz monsters and my most hated number, because it's a spell negate. Um, spell negate. Spell heavy decks just outright auto lose to this card, whether I'm playing against a Blue Eyes deck, um, someone else playing Galaxy Photons, or even Dark Lords. Um, this card is a fucking nightmare. It's so infuriating when this gets brought out against me. In fact, there was one Dark Lord matchup I had where this card and Vanity's Fiend would drop against me, and I literally couldn't play. I mean, sure, the spell negate is once per turn, but once per turn is all that's needed. Um, it's just basically an auto win. The other effects hardly ever come up, but it's just the spell negates that's a huge issue. Um, and it just makes it impossible to play. And whenever I'd have any of those matchups, this card just made my life an absolute misery and made it impossible to play. Sure, I still had traps and monster effects to work with, but not a lot. Uh, and more often than not, I need my spells to be able to play. And Hope Harbinger just says no. Yeah, that's all there is to it. Still on the subject of spell negates, this brings us to number 11, the Churia Beast, one of the sources of my hatred for Naturias and Six Samurais, with the other source being Bamboo Shoot. But Beast has just really irritated me over the last 13 years. Despite the materials, it's too easy to summon, and like milling 2 cards to negate a spell is nothing to give up. And unlike Hope Harbinger, it's not even once per turn. It's just not a fair and balanced card in any way whatsoever. And it's even been more of a problem outside of its own archetype. It'd be an extra annoyance in, well, like I said, Six Samurais, X Sabers. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I hate X Sabers. Karakuris, Psychics. Um, it's just such a stupid bullshit card. Practically an auto win button. So baiting negates never fucking works, obviously, considering it's not once per turn, like I said, and milling 2 cards is nothing to give up, and it would just make it impossible to even attempt to win by deck out, considering there's always plenty of cards left. And yeah, regarding any of those matchups, I've been done in by Naturia Beast on far too many occasions. And I've just hardly ever been able to get rid of it. In fact, I only remember one time where I actually did manage to successfully get rid of it, and that was when I special summoned Dark Magician off the effect of Destiny Hero Dasher, and then attacked over it, and I was able to win the duel because my opponent was only on 100 life points. Um, um, but yeah, that's really all there is to it. Number 10, Legendary Six Samurai Shien. The source of my hatred for Six Samurais. This very card made me hate that archetype with a fucking passion, and I've hated it ever since for the last 12 years. This bastard is literally an auto win button. Again, too easy to summon and just negates half my deck. I mean, sure, it doesn't hurt monster effect heavy decks, because thankfully it doesn't stop monster effects, but it doesn't matter, because everything else just suffers and auto loses, especially when multiple copies of this card are on the field, along with Beast. In fact, this is why I absolutely hated the March 2011 format and was one of the worst formats ever. This card was the most dominant deck, and literally nothing could win against it. In fact, it even won the UK Nationals. That's how powerful they were back then. Even limiting Shen didn't really do anything. Um, yeah, it really made my life an absolute misery back then. And even though it has had a few on and off appearances since it got limited, um, yeah, Six Samurais still left a bad taste in my mouth. And as long as this card is around, I'll never stop hating Six Sams. Um, Shame. I thought they were cool at first. I mean, I had no problem with the original ones that came out in 2007. Yeah, they were tough to beat even back then, but they were still easy to deal with, and I didn't have a reason to hate them. But then Shin just outright ruined them. And would just come out and make my life a misery whenever I'd play against Six Sams. Well, except the last time I faced them, which was in that gauntlet challenge I did with Gamer Central, and it was very surprising when I saw he didn't have any synchros in his extra deck. Um, anyway, moving along. Number 9, basically the first arch nemesis I got since pre-errata Chaos Emperor Dragon, Gladiator Beast Heracles. The source of my hatred for Glads, along with Gladiator Beast War Chariot. Um, yeah, I never hated a deck that much since Yatterlock. Um, yeah, there were other annoying decks like Stein OTK, Demise OTK, and Monarchs, but they were nothing compared to Glads. And boy, did this card make my life a misery. Just like Shen, it negated half my deck, while Chariot negated the other half, and just made it impossible to be able to play. Like pretty much every time I went up against Glads, this card would come out, and then it got to the point where I couldn't do shit. Like literally, there was nothing I could do. Like, especially since his effect isn't even once per turn, unlike Shen. Hell, I'd rather be stuck behind Shen than Heraclinos any day. That's how much I hate this card. It just annoyed me that it never got banned. As yeah, back in the early 2000s, I desperately wanted this card to get banned, but it never did. Um, and of course, eventually it got to a point where I just gave up all hope of this card ever getting banned. Like, literally, no matter what I did, I just couldn't get rid of it. I mean, there was one point where I did banish it with Chaos Sorcerer, though, and Warp Chariot wasn't there. But that was just one time. There was also a time in a tournament where I was able to attack over it with a Photon Crusher powered up by Honest, but that was it. Um, but yeah, every other time I was hardly ever able to get rid of it. Um, yeah, it just brought me too much pain and suffering. Um, and the Gladiator Beast matchup just isn't enjoyable. Um, and this is again, one of the reasons why I don't want to play in Edison tournaments anymore, because I don't want to deal with Glads. I've been bullied enough by Heraclinos as it is. Number 8, Endymion, the mighty master of magic. A more recent arch nemesis monster of mine, purely because it's both an OTK card and a lockdown card in one. The pendulum effect makes him an OTK enabler, and again, just like Heraclinos and Shen, it negates half my deck, which is just bullshit and unfair, along with the fact that it has immunity from opponents' effects that target and destroy, while it has a spell counter. Meanwhile, Jackal King negates the other half, which just makes Endymion a bullshit, unfair deck. Like, literally, there's just no point playing against it if I'm either going to get OTK'd or have my deck locked down. Um, it's impossible to beat. It has been argued that meta decks can beat it, but I mean, any win against it is just down to pure luck more often than not. Um, Considering what it can do, and then there's also the other floodgates that it plays, um, but Endymion, of course, is the main problem card, and which just ruined the whole archetype for me. I mean, I used to like the entire archetype. I mean, it was so much fun, like before the Pendulum Endymion cards came along. Um, but yeah, it's just an annoying, easy win card. Like pretty much every time I face it, 1v1 or in a royale, it always wins, and there's just no way to counter it. I mean, yeah, I did beat it with both my Destiny Heroes and my Dark Magician deck, but that was down to pure luck and clever timing of certain cards that I had more than anything. Um, and that's not going to happen every single time. Uh, yeah, I've just lost countless games against that deck because that card existed, and it became one of the reasons why I permanently retired from tournaments because it was seeing a lot of play, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Number 7. What Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss? The only Red Dragon Archfiend monster that I hate. Um, Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't enjoy playing against Red Dragon Archfiend decks. Um, but in the earlier days when this was around, there were two Red Dragon Archfiend players who would always summon this card, and then I can't do shit. Like, I mean, sure, it doesn't negate anything in hand or in the graveyard, but it doesn't matter because I need cards to be activated on the field in order to play the game, and this card just technically doesn't let me play. It's just a cheap, easy auto win button, and I just always just auto lost whenever this would come out. Well, except in one Raw Rumble, but I don't remember how it left the field in the end. But I do know I did win the whole thing with my evil heroes. Um, but no, every other time it just came out and I couldn't do shit because my deck was locked down. And it wasn't just seeing play in Red Dragon Archfiend, of course. It also became the go-to card in anything that played guard dragons. Like it would always be summoned through the effect of Argapane. Um, Even in Dragon Link, it was so annoying. Yeah, Dragon Link just isn't a very enjoyable deck, especially not back then when it would bring out Borreload Savage Dragon and Abyss, and then I just can't do shit. It also kind of annoys me when it sees play in like other decks like Buster Blade because um, you can use one of its level 1 tuners plus Buster Dragon to turn it into this card, which I feel defeats the whole point of the deck. Like the idea is supposed to be focusing on using the Buster Blader monsters themselves to win, not overpowered monsters from other archetypes. Like, it's not even being played pure. Kind of bullshit, if you ask me. Um, Not that I've encountered that deck uh, running this card, or I've played against it, I should say, but um, I don't know, this card is just toxic as fuck. Um, I also didn't appreciate that one time where I did a Red Dragon Archfiend deck profile, and along with the fact that I don't play it, and this arsehole just gave me shit for not playing it. Like, it's called personal preference. Like, not everyone has to play decks the same way. Plus, I don't even play competitively, so why should it even matter if I don't play negates? Yeah, screw this card. Speaking of Borrowed Savage Dragon, it's at number 6. Yeah, this card just really annoyed me as well. Um, in various decks, Dragon Link, other Rocket decks. Um, else was it played in? Can't really think of anything else off the top of my head, but um, oh yeah, it was played in Pendulum Magician at one point, but I don't think it was summoned against me in that matchup. But I've seen it happen. Um, uh, yeah, regarding those matchups, it was another card that just made my life an absolute misery. Just summoning it, having it summoned against me, I should say, and just gating my deck, along with the fact that it would be played alongside other negates. It was so infuriating. And of course, it happened on far too many occasions. Uh, yeah, there have been times where I've been able to bait out negates, but that luck isn't going to happen every single time. And not only that, it's also really annoying when a certain someone won't shut up about the fact that I hate Savage Dragon and the fact that I don't use it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Number 5, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, the main source of my hatred for Pendulum Magicians. Um, it's also annoying when this comes out during an Odd Eyes matchup. Not that I hate Odd Eyes decks, I just really fucking hate it when it's summoned against me. I mean, pretty much every time it has been, I just auto lost. And that just happened far too much. Like, mainly in the All Eyes Magician matchup or the Pendulum Magician matchup. It's just a cheap, easy auto win card. And if I'm not getting OTK'd, then my deck is being negated by this bastard. And I'm just hardly ever able to get rid of it when it hits the field. I feel like I've only ever managed to get rid of it 4 times when it hit the field, and that was it. Yeah, in any case, it just made the matchup unenjoyable. Um, I swear this would happen like every single time I went up against Pendulum Magician. Um, yeah, there were times where Gatling Ghoul would be made, which, yeah, is annoying late game, but I'd rather be done in by Gatling Ghoul than Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon any day. And, yeah, this fucker was what led me to uh, retire into tournaments on a couple of occasions. Um, like back in 2017. Not only that, this card, along with Hope Harbinger, was the only reason why me and Alex, Brute Boy, lost our tag team title. It wasn't a Pendulum Magician matchup. I think it was a. Wait, what was the matchup? Um, was it Dark Synchro with some random pendulums? I can't remember. Um, but yeah, it's just a bad memory that's basically stuck with me. Um, uh, and I've just been, well, I was salty that we lost that way. Again, I wasn't annoyed that we lost, just annoyed about the way we lost. It was annoying. Number four, totally arsehole. Yeah, the reason why everyone hates Paleozoic Frog, including me. Um, I'm assuming that deck's pretty much dead since we lost Ronin Todin, but it is still being played in various decks, Prank Kids, or anything that runs Bahamut Shark. Um, yeah, that's something that just really irritates me. But no, it was mainly the Paleo matchup, which just made this both an arch nemesis and my second most hated Xyz monster in the game. Uh, too easy to summon, always recycles itself whenever it sends itself to negate something. It was just infuriating. It just made so many games unenjoyable, and just, and it's just a cheap, easy win card that um, Halo players just got easy wins with. But not to mention in Prank Kids, another deck that I hate. It's just insult to injury more than anything. It's a bullshit card that made it impossible to play and just made it impossible to win against that fucking deck. Or Paleos, that is. I think I've only ever won against Paleos like once or twice. That's pretty much it. Every other time, this card came out and just stopped me from playing. Number three, Cyber Dragon Infinity, the card that for me ruined Cyber Dragons, um, or rather just made me hate Cyber Dragons. It's just basically become Infinity dot deck. I mean, if it's not OTKing, it's always summoning this card and just outright stopping anyone from being able to play. And people wonder why I hate Cyber Dragons so much. Um, in fact, this is part of the reason why I just stopped playing in tournaments recently. Um, even though I was going to go back into tournament retirement anyway. But that's a story I've already talked about. Um, uh, yeah, this would pretty much happen every single time I'd go up against Cyber Dragons. Um, like it would just come out, negate my deck, and then I can't do shit against it. Unless, of course, I've got Chimera Tech Mega Fleet in the extra deck, or Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Um, I mean, they did help a lot when I played against them in that tournament with my Yugi Gadget deck. I think it was the only way I had to just get rid of Infinity and turn things around. But other than that, I just auto lost against this card. And like I said, it happened on far too many occasions, and I've lost countless games against Cyber Dragons because of it. And yet, certain people say that Ultimate Falcon and Blackwing Full Armor Master are worse when they're really not. Yeah, that debate still keeps coming up, and I'm sick of it. Um, so hopefully this will end that debate once and for all. The Ultimate Falcon and Full Armor Master are powerful, annoying cards in their own right, but because they don't have any form of negation, they're not doing anything to stop you from being able to play. Therefore, you are freely able to activate stuff and go into a monster that can easily just attack over them. Of course, kaijuring them is easier. Then again, the same could be said for negates, but that's not the point. Like, the point is, like, compared to a negate, Ultimate Falcon and Full Armor Master are easy to deal with. Infinity and every other negate are not, because they just outright shut your deck down and just stop you from being able to play, regardless of whether it's one, two, or several on the field. And baiting doesn't fucking work before someone says it. But I mean, don't you think I've tried? It does not work. And as a result, I end up wasting resources, and then I'm left with nothing, and I'm forced to scoop. Therefore, negates are worse, and no one can tell me otherwise. I mean, you could argue that you've been able to bait a negate and still be able to play, but that's down to pure luck more than anything, and it's not going to happen every single time. So, yeah, again, negates are so much worse than Full Armor Master and Ultimate Falcon. No one can tell me otherwise. That it, end of discussion. Full stop. It's done. Finished. Just let it be and move on. Number two, Ash Blossom. Alright, yes, it's not a boss monster, but Ash Blossom is still considered an arch nemesis of mine, purely because like it stops far too many things, and it's being played in almost every fucking deck, which I'm just sick and tired of. And of course, like I've said before, is also one of the reasons why I stopped playing in tournaments. Yeah, she was just annoying me that much. But then again, she still sees playing casual play, which just really irritates me. Hence why I'm like, come on. Why are you bringing this into a casual game? Right, I understand the need to use it to counter meta, But do you really have to bring it into a casual game against a casual player playing a casual deck who literally just wants to play the game? I mean, again, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. I literally just want to play the game and not have my stuff negated. At least not all the time. It can even get to a point where it just ruins comeback plays or makes it so that no one can do anything. Like that one time in a while where it stopped my magician's navigation and I literally couldn't play for a couple of turns. Yeah, it's a card that just sucks all the fun, life, and joy out of the game, like despite the name. And yes, Call by the Grave stops it, but there's hardly any point playing it. Like, it's limited. The chances of drawing it are too fucking slim. And even if I do see it, I can only stop one ash blossom with it. Just one. And then I have nothing to stop the others, because there's just fuck all ways to counter this card. I know there is also triple tactics talents and uh, nobleman of no cross out designator, but those cards are just too expensive and too difficult to get. I'd much rather be able to play 3 copies of Call by the Grave, just to specifically counter Ash Blossom. Yeah, that's what makes this little bitch an arch nemesis. Number 1, Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. I mean, what else could it be? Um, yeah, this bastard is an arch nemesis in more ways than one. The fact that it's the most annoying negate in the game and has fuck all weaknesses, and and there's also the fact that people have just argued with me over this card, or just given me shit over the fact that I don't play it in my Dark Magician and Red Eyes decks, um, which led me to stopping doing deck profiles twice before ultimately disabling the comments of my current format Dark Magician deck profiles just to specifically stop people giving me shit over this. Um, yeah, pod just really made my life an absolute misery in that aspect, along with the fact that on occasion other Dark Magician players still summon it against me, despite my hatred for it. Don't appreciate it really, not gonna lie. Um, but it's also something that makes the Dark Magician mirror match unenjoyable, as all other Dark Magician players ever do is just play Dragoon deck. Um, well, except for 3 people, Matt and Alison Welch and John Cross, purely because they feel the exact same way I do about Dragoon. And then there's Gamer Central, who doesn't play it simply because he doesn't have it. Um, feel like he probably would if he did have it, um, but yeah, that's really all there is to it. And that's it for this video. It did end up being longer than I planned it would be, but yeah, those are my arch nemesis monsters. what are your guys' arch nemesis monsters? I'm sure someone's still going to say Ultimate Falcon and Full Armor Master. Um, but yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.
Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Richician YouTube channel.